Tonight, you will lie down alone in a dark room, pull a blanket over your body, close your eyes, and stay perfectly still for 8 hours. You will do this without thinking. You will do this because every doctor, every sleep app, every wellness article told you this is correct. This is healthy. This is what humans are supposed to do. But for nearly all of human history, no one slept this way, not even close. The 8-hour solo sleep you treat as natural is one of the most recent inventions in the entire story of your species. It is younger than writing, younger than agriculture, younger in some ways than the city you live in. And the science now suggests it may be quietly working against the body it was supposed to restore. So what did your ancestors actually do when the sun went down? That question sat largely unanswered until a researcher named Jerome Siegel decided to find out. Siegel is a sleep scientist at UCLA, and in 2015, he and his team did something no sleep researcher had done before. They traveled to 3 hunter-gatherer societies, the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, and they fitted people with wrist monitors that tracked every hour of their sleep patterns in real time. No lab, no questionnaires, just raw data from people living the closest thing to a pre-industrial human life that still exists on Earth. What he found rewrote the textbooks. These groups did not sleep for 8 hours. They averaged between 6 and 7 hours a night. They did not go to bed at dark. They stayed awake for hours after sunset, often gathered around fire, talking, telling stories, watching the sky. They did not wake at first light. They rose after sunrise, sometimes well after. And here is the part that stops most people cold. None of them had insomnia. None of them reported chronic sleep disorders. None of them had sleep anxiety. The thing your culture told you was the gold standard of rest, these groups weren't doing it, and they were sleeping better than you. So where did the 8-hour rule come from? The answer involves fire, electricity, and a shift so gradual that no single generation noticed it happening. Go back far enough, 50,000 years, 100,000 years, and sleep was not a private act. It was a communal one. Your ancestors slept in groups, not for warmth alone, though that mattered. Not for comfort alone, though that mattered too. They slept in groups because sleeping alone in the dark was one of the most dangerous things a human body could do. The predators were real. The threats were real. A lone human lying motionless on open ground was not resting. It was an offering. So the group solution emerged. Not everyone slept at the same time. Siegel's data showed something that researchers now call a watch overlap. In any group, there were always at least 1 or 2 individuals in a light sleep phase or fully awake at any given hour of the night. Not assigned, not scheduled, just the natural variation in human sleep timing, meaning that the group was never fully unconscious all at once. Your ancestors had built-in overnight surveillance without ever designing it. This is where your chronotype comes from. You know the word, night owl, early bird. You probably have a strong sense of which one you are. And you have almost certainly been told by a school schedule, a work alarm, a cultural assumption that the early bird version is correct, that the night owl is lazy, undisciplined, broken in some way. That story is exactly backwards. Chronotype variation, the spread of human sleep timing across a population, is not a flaw. It is an ancient survival feature. Researchers Till Roneberg and Martha Marrow spent years mapping chronotypes across thousands of people and found that sleep timing follows a normal distribution across any large population, with some people naturally peaking hours earlier or later than others. The spread is too consistent and too heritable to be random. It was selected for. It existed because a group that all fell deeply asleep at the exact same hour was a group that could be wiped out. Your tendency to stay up late or rise before dawn is not a lifestyle preference. It is a genetic inheritance from ancestors who kept the fire alive. But then came artificial light. Thomas Edison, who famously slept very little and considered long sleep a sign of weakness, gave the world the electric light bulb in 1879. Within a few decades, the rhythms that had governed human sleep for hundreds of thousands of years began to collapse. Sunset no longer meant darkness. Night no longer meant rest. The sky above cities glowed orange, and the internal clock your body had spent millennia calibrating to the movement of the sun began to drift. Circadian biologist Russell Foster at Oxford has spent his career studying what happens when that clock gets disrupted. His research shows that the master clock in your brain, a cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, runs on light. It resets every morning when photons hit the back of your eye. Take away the contrast between dark night and bright morning, and that clock starts losing precision. Sleep timing fragments. The deep restorative stages shorten. Mood, metabolism, immune function, and even memory consolidation begin to degrade. You are not sleeping in a way that is out of step with modern life. You are sleeping in a way that is out of step with your own biology. And then there is the myth of the 8-hour block. Historian Roger Ekirch spent over 2 decades combing through pre-industrial diaries, court records, medical texts, and literature, and what he found in his 2001 paper was extraordinary. Before electric light, humans across Europe, the Americas, and beyond did not sleep in one long, unbroken stretch. They slept in 2 separate phases, divided by an hour or more of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night. They called it the first sleep and the second sleep. In the hours between them, people would lie awake in the dark and simply exist in a state that Ekirch describes as unusually calm and reflective. They would pray, they would think, they would talk quietly with whoever was beside them. Some would get up, eat a small meal, visit a neighbor. Then they would return to bed for their second sleep until morning. This 2-phase pattern was so normal, so assumed, that almost no one wrote about it as unusual. It was like writing about breathing. The references only became visible to Ekirch because he was looking for them. Once he saw the pattern, he found it everywhere. In Chaucer, in Homer, in colonial American records, in African and Asian texts. It vanished almost completely in the industrial era, and when it disappeared, something else appeared in its place. A new medical complaint: sleeplessness. The inability to fall asleep and stay asleep through the entire night without interruption. What Ekirch argues, and what the biology now supports, is that waking in the middle of the night is not a disorder. It is what your body was designed to do. The disorder is the expectation that you shouldn't. So what would it mean to sleep the way your biology actually asks you to? It would mean not panicking when you wake at 2 a.m. Your body is not broken. It is looking for its second sleep. It would mean not fighting your chronotype. If you are a late sleeper, your genes are not wrong. Your calendar might be. It would mean understanding that the goal is not 8 unbroken hours in isolation, but sleep that is structured around light, around social timing, around a body that evolved to sleep communally and in phases. Jerome Siegel's Hadza subjects lived with chronic stress. They faced food insecurity. They had no mattresses, no blackout curtains, no melatonin gummies. And they slept, on average, better than the average adult in any industrialized country. The difference was not technology. The difference was alignment. Their bodies were doing what hundreds of thousands of years of evolution shaped them to do. Tonight, you will lie down in a dark room and close your eyes. You will do this because every doctor, every sleep app, every wellness article told you this is correct. But now you know something they usually don't say out loud. The way you sleep tonight is not ancient. It is not natural. It is not even old. It is an experiment that started about 150 years ago, and the results are not looking good.